Hi everybody, it's Carrie and welcome back to another video. This is, okay, I'm gonna assume it's day 6 of Vlogmas because I'm pretty certain I prepped like 2 videos the other day and got them out. And sorry, I'm on like one of my chairs. I sit over there and I can never sit still. I feel like if I'm in a chair that moves, I'm constantly moving, so we might be twirling a little bit. But if you guys don't know me, my name's Carri. I run Traveling Pony Studios, which is a small crochet business. And I do YouTube, of course. That's probably why you guys are watching, is because this is YouTube. But I also have a small little crochet business and make plushies. I do felt eyes. I have an online shop, but don't quote me on that. I think I sell maybe like 1 or 2 things a year on my online shop and everything, since I mainly do all of my stuff at markets. But we're in the downtime right now, so it's kind of like I'm waiting to hear back if I make the convention that I mentioned about. I think the jury results will come out in like January, I feel like. But I would be shocked if I got in, first of all, because it's a very big convention. It would be so hard on me to do it. So I feel like even if I got in, I would have to like really sit down and figure out the logistics side of it. But then at the same time, I feel like it could be a really good thing for me and really good exposure, because the attendee amount I think is like typically between 50 to 70,000, and it's a 4-day convention in Atlanta. So it's kind of like one of those things that like I want to do it more than I think anything, just to like have that experience, because I don't know when it may ever happen again or how long I'm gonna continue crocheting. Like I said, crocheting was never in my books or plans or anything. Like I just randomly one day picked up a crochet hook and now look at me. It's like, I don't know if it's a success story, but it's a story, I'll tell you. So I think earlier on, like maybe like day, I don't know, maybe like 2 or 3 or something, I did a video about what acrylic yarn I use, which I always get asked on my videos about what yarn I use, but I will say, you know, of course, it's primarily more about like what Chenille yarn I use, because a lot of my plushies are done in Chenille. I feel like the only time I really do acrylics is, of course, for like flowers. And then, of course, if I take on like very particular customs. But I would say for the most part, the yarns that I work in, of course, is Chenille. It is my preferred yarn, and after doing so many acrylic plushies lately, it is so nice to be working a little bit more into acrylic, or a little bit more into Chenille. I still have a few acrylic things that I'm working on finishing up, but I'm almost done with it, and I'm really excited just because it definitely is a whole lot less painful like on my hands to work in Chenille yarn, and my fingers don't get like nearly as banged up when working with Chenille. With the acrylic yarn, they get like all cut up and everything. It's so annoying. So I'm very excited to be working in Chenille yarn again, and that is one of my more asked questions, is what Chenille yarns I use. I think like literally I'm trying to answer everyone's like comments. I'm a little bit behind on some of the YouTube videos, but I know like I think in the last week or something I've had somebody ask about like what yarn I use. So let's start off real quick with the yarns I don't use. I feel like if you have been watching this channel for a really long time or even a short time, everyone should know what yarn I very strongly do not use. Which is so funny because like I actually admittedly would say my yarn choice makes me stand out at markets. It's kind of crazy to say that, but like this previous market I did in November, there were 4 people I think who crocheted, including me. There might have been 4 or 5. Let's just say 4 because I knew of like 3 next to me, but there could have been more since this market doesn't really do a good job at selecting like smaller vendor amounts for categories. So there was a lot of crochet people at this market. And out of, let's say 4, I was the only one who used mainly this, like the brands that I do. I think there might have been one other person who used, it looked like Premier maybe when I saw their plushies, but I think they also use Burnett because like I kind of saw their plushies because they were at the front of the market. So like people would go there first and then they would walk down and go to my tent. So I saw some of their like plushies and everything with people walking by, but the other people were Burnett people. And it's a very common thing because like my last couple markets I've done, I'll be the only person that uses like Chenille yarn, and then everyone else uses blanket yarn. And I've actually had a good deal of customers come up to me and say that they prefer the type of yarn I use. And because it is generally softer, the colors are a little bit more vibrant, and I think you get some really pretty pastels. I think that kind of is lacking in some of the like Burnett's and stuff. I just personally don't love the colors that some of them have. And then I don't know if it's just me, but texturally I can look at a piece that's made in like Burnett and pick it out right away because the texture is just, it's not as smooth, I guess you would say, as a Chenille yarn. So I definitely have had people that have come up to my setup at markets and actually tell me that they prefer the yarn I use, which has always been really interesting to see because you're gonna have debates with like every person out there who crochets is gonna tell you something different. Because I don't like Burnett doesn't mean that like you don't like you have to hate Burnett. Like I know so many people who love Burnett and love blanket yarn, and then I know so many people who just absolutely hate Chenille yarn. Like I don't think there's a right or a wrong. I think it's just what works best for you and what you like as a business, because ultimately these are pieces you're creating, so you have to like them first of all. And I feel like as I've done this for a year and as I have done so much in my very short time crocheting, I have definitely learned that it is important to enjoy the craft a little bit as much as you can. Like granted, because of the fact that I crochet so much and a lot of these items, like especially when I'm doing market prep or store prep, you know, there's some items that I'm literally making like 50 of in a week. I'm not gonna necessarily like love the pattern when I'm making hundreds of them a year, but at the same time, I enjoy it and I still like the quality because I like the yarn and everything that I use, and my stitching has gotten so much better. So there's just things like that, those factors that it doesn't really matter necessarily someone else's opinions of what yarn you use, what size eyes you use. Like all of my plushies, I use big eyes. I always like, if a pattern says a 12, I'm usually using a 16. That's just me. I prefer a bigger eye look, but a lot of people go smaller eyes. Like there's no right or wrong, and I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Like first of all, because I like don't want to make anyone mad with the Burnett thing, because I know there's some people who like die on that hill, which is fine, but there's no right or wrong with crocheting or any form of art, because I think the more time I spend doing crocheting, and especially as I have been doing a little bit more complicated pieces, just like Christmas time and not necessarily having a market prep, and I have this like opportunity to make things that are more than just like market prep items and store items, it is like an art form. It truly is. But oh my god, I have gone off on my yapping spree. You guys know I like to talk a lot. And oh my gosh, you guys see my hair is growing out, and it's been like in the 20s here. Tonight's supposed to be like 21, so I haven't shaved my head. And it's amazing how much gray I have in my hair, and I feel like you can see it so much more when it's long on the sides, which is another reason why I shave my head, is I have a ton of gray. Delightful. But primarily one of the biggest yarns that I personally stay away from is Bernat blanket. Honestly, a lot of it, like I said, it comes down to texture. I'm not really a big fan of the texture. I don't really like the color choices. There has been a few times when I like made leggy frogs. I think I used more Bernat because of the fact that they had more variety of like greens and everything than like, of course, Sweet Snuggles. There's just like really that like pale green, and then you've got like the ice green, and then I think there's something called Kombu in Chenille Home Slim that's like a really dark green. So the green choices were just like not good. And so I use Bernat for the leggy frogs, but since I don't really focus on leggy frogs anymore because I feel like they're too standard of an item to, like, for me at least to bring, I don't use Bernat all that much. I mean, I literally like have probably a box or two full of Bernat that I just need to get rid of. Like, I need to take it to a Goodwill. I need to find maybe like a store or something around me that does like yarn workshops, or I think there's like places that I kind of know of or have heard of that make like stuff for like homeless people. So I just want to see if I can like donate some of this yarn because I have zero intention of using it. So Bernat is the big one. I know there's like Premier Basics or something, but I honestly haven't bought it because I go back and forth and I'm like, yeah, I would like to try it, but I can't really justify it because I can't really imagine what I would use it for. Like, I already have colors covered in like my normal yarn, so I can't necessarily justify it. But Bernat's the main one. I just don't use. It hurts my hands so much. I have never ever worked in a yarn that is as painful to me as Bernat is. It's stiff and it almost feels dirty. It makes my crochet hook squeak. I'm just not a Bernat girly. Let's leave it at that. I don't like Bernat. Ow. Another yarn that I don't particularly use is Yarn Bee has one, and I'm blanking on the name. I do not like their Chenille yarn at all. I think it's the same thing. I bought quite a few of it. It feels dirty. It's rough. I just, I think there's so many better yarns that you could buy besides that one. Like, there's so many better Chenilles that I feel like you could buy besides Yarn Bee. I guess if you were like desperate and needed some. But the quality every time I purchase it is just really bad. Like, I don't know what's wrong with it. Posh is another one that I don't use, and not to like shade Posh. I actually think the texture of Posh is quite nice. It's just, and you know, when I keep looking to the side, I just want to say, or like behind you guys, my yarn room full of my Chenille stuff is behind the camera, and then my shelf with like my Bernat, Posh, my normal stuff that I use on a regular basis is like off to the side. So I keep looking at like the shelves to look at what yarn to talk about. But I do have like, I don't know, like 7 skeins of Posh over there. And I had bought it when like Posh was just released, and it was like, oh. And I had really bought it, I think, to actually do a YouTube video, to do a comparison video of Posh with like Sweet Snuggles Light, I think, and maybe Premier or maybe Bernat. I can't remember. I made a video about it. It's way in the back. But I had primarily bought it for that, and so I have quite a good deal of Posh. I just don't really use it that much because of the size more than the texture. I actually think it's quite easy to crochet with. It's pretty soft. I think the only colors I have is like the green, the light blue, brown. It's like kind of icy green blue. And then there's a tan and stuff. So I don't have all the colors, but I think they have a decent amount of colors. But I will say one of the things I did like when I was working with it is, of course, it doesn't really shed. So that was really nice. But I don't really use Posh enough to have an opinion. It's just, for me personally, because I'm doing markets and because people look at size, of course, it doesn't really make sense for me to use it because it is a smaller size, so it works up to smaller pieces, which then in turn, people are pretty smart. If they see something that's small, they're only going to spend so much money for it. It doesn't matter how much detail it has. You can't convince them. Like, I can't sit there when I'm at a market and be like, well guys, yes, it's in a small yard. Yes, it's really small. Yes, it took me like 6 hours. I need this. And they'll be like, no, but it's like this big. We can't. I've had these conversations too much over the years at market. Like this year, I feel like I've had this conversation quite a few times. So let's talk about the yarns that I, of course, do use. So I'm going to show you guys the primary one, of course, that I use first. The primary yarn that I would say I use for a vast majority of my plushies is either Chenille Home Slim or Sweet Snuggles Light. You can only get it at Michael's, of course. And the biggest issue that I have personally with this yarn is, yes, guys, it is a Chenille yarn. It breaks, it sheds, it's a pain. Like, I think if you're gonna work in this yarn, you just have to accept that some days are not gonna be your day. Some skeins, quality-wise, can be like really out there. Like, I have had some that are just like absolute garbage. And I have to tell myself, I'm like, girl, we have to get through this. Like, some of the skeins are kind of like stiff, like, and so I have to do it like on a day where my hand doesn't hurt, because if I do it when my hand already hurts, girl, I can't even get through a plushie. Like, call 911 or something. I ain't doing it. So Chenille Home Slim, Sweet Snuggles Light, that's primarily what I use for a majority of my plushies. And I feel like it's just, it can be temperamental. Like, I've had some that literally, like, I think you look at it and it just like falls apart. And then I've had some that like I can sew multiple times and it's like the strongest thing in the world. Like, I can't figure it out, but it's got a mind of its own. One of the big issues, of course, is the colors. I'm really surprised that Sweet Snuggles, which is the larger size, has more color options than Sweet Snuggles Light. That surprises me just because I feel like I hear so many more people who use Sweet Snuggles Light, especially for amigurumi, opposed to Sweet Snuggles. So I do wish they would carry over like the reds, the oranges, a better brown, because you only have in Chenille Home Slim, you have terracotta, which is like borderline red. It's a really red brown. And then you have, I think they call it Java, which is borderline like almost black. It's really dark brown. So the color options can be a bit questionable. And that leads into, of course, one of the other yarns I picked up because of the colors, which is, of course, Premier Parfait Chunky. I think the main reason I got into using Premier Parfait Chunky was, of course, because of the color options. They have so many more colors. There's certain items where, like, I'll say for like the Christmas stuff and everything, they have a really nice green. I want to say it's like key lime that I use for like the Grinches and everything. And then I have like the gingerbreads. They have a much better brown. That's more of like a chocolate, like milk chocolate brown. So I use those for like the gingerbread men. So I feel like this year, especially in the later portion of the year, I have definitely been using Premier more. Before, I only ever used it for my little pop-up mushrooms because I wanted to use like the red tops. Sweet Snuggles Light didn't have red. So I started using the Premier, and then I got into their like mushroom color. And then that was really the only thing I bought for, oh, and then the orange, the tangerine, because of course I couldn't get in Sweet Snuggles Light. So I primarily just had those three colors, but my Premier collection is very steadily growing. I actually, when I'm recording this video, I have like a package from Premier that's supposed to be arriving today. It was like $150 worth of yarn. Guys, I really need to stop buying yarn. I have so much, but I can't stop. So I use Premier, I would say a decent amount. Now, when I get through this Christmas stuff, I don't know how much more I'll use, just because, like I said, I'm primarily using a lot for like the gingerbreads, the Grinches, the snowman, because the biggest issue with using Sweet Snuggles Light or Premier is there is a size difference. Even though these both are marked as 6s, Premier is smaller, the Parfait Chunky, by a considerable amount. So if I have to do small details in like say orange or something, or just something small, I don't really think it makes a big difference. But when I have to use Parfait for like a decent portion of the pattern, and then I try and mix it with this, it's not going to turn out good. And that's one of the reasons why I've had to buy more Parfait, is because it doesn't look good when it mixes. So kind of like you have to stay consistent with the yarn. So I use Parfait more than I used to. And then we'll go into my next yarn. The next one I have been using a little bit more is Honey Bunny. So I always stayed away from these yarn because I was like, holy, like, why is it so dang expensive, guys? This is like almost the same size of Parfait, but it's like double the cost. And I was just like, absolutely blown away. Like, I thought it was a scam because they're almost the exact same. Like, there's not that much difference. But I did end up buying a good deal of Honey Bunny. I think I bought about 25, 30 skeins, and I'm planning on ordering more, but I'm waiting for it to go like back on sale. I ended up buying it, and it was like 60% off or something. Like, I waited for them to have a huge sale because I was like, there's absolutely no flipping way I'm buying this regular price. No, this just is not happening. So I bought a good deal, but I actually, don't quote me on this. I don't know, they could be from the same manufacturers because both Parfait and this are both manufactured in Turkey, but I kind of like this a bit more. It could just be in my mind. I feel like the yarn quality is a little better, and I do feel like the yarn itself could just be like the slightest bit thicker. And I could be crazy when I'm saying all this. But I don't know. I do think I like Honey Bunny more. I really have been using, I think it's called like Nugget. I've been using that a lot. I've been using this orange a lot. I've been using a gray a lot, and they've been very good quality. Like, I've had some like Premier or Parfait that's just like Sweet Snuggles 2, where I'm like, oh my god, this is like horrendous. So far, I mean, I have not, of course, ordered nearly as much Honey Bunny as I have like Parfait and Sweet Snuggles, but so far I have been very pleased by the quality. I really enjoy the colors. Like, I really enjoy this orange right here. It's just, it's a beautiful orange in my opinion, and I've used it to make foxes. It's much better than Premier's orange. Like, I just really like, this is honestly, when I order again, gonna be one of the colors I order, just because to me it's a beautiful orange. Like, I love it. But the colors are all really good. I don't know about how quickly it takes for them to like restock items. I know they're out of stock of some things, which is why I didn't get more for their like Black Friday, because they were out of like the colors that I like primarily wanted to order, and then I was gonna order a couple more just to like get the free shipping, because that's typically what I end up doing. I'm like, if I just spend this much more, I can get free shipping. So that's typically like how my brain works. But so far I have really enjoyed Honey Bunny, and hoping to keep buying more. I know they have Toucan, but I was reading the reviews, and the reviews don't seem that good on that yarn. So I feel like I would like purchase it if I purchase this and just get like one skein to see the quality. But yeah, some of the reviews on that Toucan yarn are just kind of like not super convincing for me. But basically, in summary, the yarns that I primarily use for my plushies for Chenille are Sweet Snuggles Light and Chenille Home Slim. Parfait Chunky, and then Honey Bunny. The yarns that I really don't use, I will not use for Net Blanket at all. And then I use sometimes Posh. It's really just pattern dependent and plushie dependent. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it answered some of your questions, since I have gotten this question quite a few times about what I use for my plushies. And if you guys have any other questions or video ideas, please leave them below. We still got quite a few more days to get through, so I'm always looking for some ideas. But I hope you guys have an amazing rest of the day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!